When you say a fellowship, what are we talking about here for these kids out in the community?
Well, I would target population are often the least to receive the services and resources that we have available in our community. Simply because those are the ones that, okay, well, I need substance abuse treatment. Well, we can't take you because you've been using. I need anger management. Well, you came in arguing, so we can't support you because you're angry. Well, it's anger management. Those types of things. And these are the folks that also have succumbed to being culturally in the shadows. The fellowship allows them to begin to have support, daily support. For example, if someone, as we're doing their life map, and they said they wanted to become a baker, right? That's what they always wanted to do if money wasn't the issue. Well, then we would start at the beginning, of course, developing social development skills, things of that nature. Because many of us, as we know, the narrative is, well, you take them off the street and put them in a job, they'd be fine. But no, you take them off the street and put them in a job, they'd be fired or walked off in 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. Simply because the soft skills are not honed and the being able to function in that type of civil environment is not what they, what they have experienced or what they tend to know after being, in the shadows for so long. So the fellowship allows them to build camaraderie, build support, relationships. It allows them to focus on setting goals and accomplishing those goals, but not being left to fend on their own doing it. Very much so that NCAs or neighborhood, neighborhood associates, right? Or credible messengers that would work with us and that we would hire will be able to support those individuals, as well as an elder circle of individuals who are older now and may have had some challenges, but have found their way to a different life. It's one thing to tell folks that you can do better, but it's another thing to show them and help them do better. It's like teach them how to fish, and they can fish forever, right? But you give them a fish, they just eat that day. So the fellowship is real powerful in that way of bringing these individuals together and giving them the supports they need, as well as breaking down those barriers of why do you not like that person and live on the other side, or that's in this other group that's in opposition to you, when you just notice you all really have so much in common. It's just the nature of that environment that causes that, and half the time not even knowing sincerely why, or having a good explanation of why I needed to shoot that individual to settle the conflict. Why there wasn't a different direction to take.
You talk about these young people not necessarily knowing how to solve problems beyond violence. You're saying that's what they know, and you've had experience in that. You've talked about that in interviews before.
Yes, I've definitely come from that world, hindsight being 2020, I realized that the reason why I did made a lot of the choices that I choose to make is because I didn't know any other choices. This is what I saw, this is the environment that I was in, and this is the way I was socialized that I should live. Now I knew there were such things as doctors and lawyers and firemen and all of that, but early on, that ideal was crushed for me 4th grade, when we had to draw a picture of what we wanted to be when we grow up. And so I really never been an artist, so I drew a stick man with what we would call a rectangle in a stick hand. That's my briefcase, because I wanted to be a businessman. And I was told that you can't do that, but you can do this. And they showed me a picture of James Earl Jones in the movie Claudine back in the day on the garbage truck, right? And to then we didn't realize that that person is so important to our community. It was more like a put down and a low status at the thinking of that time. So, and then the other narratives from society at the time with the blatant racism, it seems like we're almost full circle again, right? Where, you know, I can be walking down the street and called names out of a car, have eggs thrown at me and those types of things, and told that you will never be sugar, honey, iced tea, right? Just use the letters for the acronym, right? And I began to believe that, you know, and so I began to live my life according to the role models that I saw in my personal life, as well as the desire to be someone, even if it meant that it was someone that's not accepted in a circle or in the world of crime, so on and so forth. And as a result, you know, I have 11 holes in my body from 4 different occasions, you know, and the mentality was each time I did get shot, I saw it as an ideal of being invincible, you know, and it gave me credibility in the streets. Well, negative credibility is better than no credibility, you know. Being someone that is recognized and lifted up in a not too fruitful or a criminality type of environment is better than none. You know, getting negative attention is better than no attention. So those things began to just kind of consume me. Next thing that I know is that I had been in certain areas in the city for years and hadn't experienced anything else but that area, you know, unless I was going to jail or something and I'm looking out the back of the police car or the paddy wagon, then I might see the rest of Rochester, you know, that type of thing. But I just became consumed with that environment. Well, it's not that much different today, you know. You hear a lot of our young people, you know, talking about their block. This is my block, my hood, what have you. When we know that the majority of them have never paid a bill there, don't pay taxes there, don't own anything, but they reside there. So this is mine, and neither you come over here, you know, with whatever, and we have a conflict. Those types of things, you know, and that was just part of what we thought was normal, which leads into the trauma that many of folks suffer from. You know, I mean, you know, to think that hearing gunshots or hearing of somebody being victimized is just a regular old thing. You know, it's normalized when we know that that is far from normal. You know, to watch people die or to have little children aspiring to these memorials that we see. You know, I've you know, more than once, little people have said like, well, you know, oh man, he must have been famous, you know, whatever, because there's all these candles and bottles and flags and what have you, not realizing that that's actually an individual whose life was cut short, and they became a victim of the environment as well, the bigger picture of the system and the way it's built.
Yeah.
So,
what's the difference between this and what a lot of Rochesterians know, Pathways to Peace?
Well, I used to be part of Pathways to Peace in the earlier days when we did a lot of prevention and intervention. I truly see this as a much more comprehensive model that had been used in the past, and a more target specific. We work, in fact, in the Office of Neighborhood Safety and the Department of Human Services, Pathways to Peace is in the building with us. You know, we're all part of that. The difference is that our credible messengers and the ONS and Advanced Peace specifically target those who are active in the shooting environment, or maybe because if they're active, then they're usually going to be the next victim as well. So, and being able to intercede on that by giving them a long-term model such as Advanced Peace on ONS to to help move them and sustain them. Because, everybody think about quick fixes, but we're talking, at the end of the day, we're talking about human beings. Human beings that have been socialized to be one way, which is, of course, against the norms of our society and just the ideal of living incorrectness altogether, right? And bringing them from that to an area of civility is not a mere change of what you did today. It's more of, well, again, as we said earlier, how do you do that? Can I do that? I mean, yes, Pookie got shot, Jaquan got shot. Well, wow, that's my son's name. I don't know, it just came up for me, but he did get shot and killed just this year, my youngest boy. But, I lost my point because I had that emotional piece. Yeah, but saying that, okay, well, at least in this environment, I know what to expect. If I square up, so to speak, and go to school and get me a career and go, get a job, whether it's a technical job or whether it's a professional, college-educated job, then what's going to happen next? And so that fear is built in there that really holds a lot of folks back. But we have also seen that a lot of the people who are in that environment no longer want to be there. But it's like having the keys and you're in jail. You got the key in your pocket, but you can't open the cell, right? That is the scenario that I use a lot, because we don't actually do anything like per se for them, like do all the work for them and say, here you go. They do the work, they just have someone to guide them as they move through the work. And when they have small failures along the way, like say somebody on probation, an hour late for curfew, fortunately, we're now having conversations, and then you have the lesson more with parole now, where if he missed curfew, then why does he go sit down for 2 weeks in the jail cell? When everything that it may have accomplished, no matter how large the gain or how small the gain, is gone now, again. So you're back at square one. The normal mentality is, oh, I tried, F that, I'm going back to what I know, So this process tends to not place judgment. It is strictly voluntarily. It is not one forced by law enforcement or by someone who's saying, well, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. No, only time we use those scenarios is when we're talking about just being human. This is the response, or this is, the consequence of this behavior, blah, blah, but not rather than community corrections or parole or something like that, demanding that you go. The other piece is, the systems. Like, if we have to move someone immediately for their safety, and then these people also have families, right? How do we care for that whole piece? Well, we have the infrastructure in place in this city. We now have all our human service entities in one building. No more going from place to place, right? Where we can serve all those other individuals and their needs, and even those who may be involved in violence but are not particularly our target population, right? We have that, so we don't just say, no, we ain't serving you. We hand them and guide them to the next available entity that can serve them. ONS, Peacemaker Fellowship, that target population is what we focus on.
You mentioned your son, Jaquan Hill, 25 years old,
Yes.
murdered. And
before his birthday.
And this, if I'm not mistaken, played a role in you connecting with ONS.
Yes, it did. It very much did. I literally went through a struggle on where I was going next in life. Was I wanted to be retaliate, and it's just for me, it's divine and spiritual because I'm standing there at my son's memorial with other folks, and I hear this announcement on the radio because I'm always listening to talk radio, or XXI or something, right, during the day. My radio's on that because I like to be informed. And so, and I hear this announcement coming from my mayor, Lovely Warren, and I'm like, wow, that sounds like something that I can push this energy towards. And it came just at the time where I said, after all I've done and all the people I've been able to help, I was unable to help my own, and I began to take the blame and different things. But then, after talking with his mom and other folks that, about his attributes, he actually knew he had choices, but he had gotten into that vicious circle of thinking that, but I'm going to do it my way, and it's not going to be like your experience was, so on and so forth. But that announcement was made, and I received calls from our mayor, from our president, city council, Loretta Scott, as well as from several other members of council, and Willie Lightfoot. And I just said to them, I said, you just made this announcement. Tell me what I got to do to put my application in so I can be part of the process, And we went through the process, and at the second interview, I had to do a presentation because of the experience and the things that I have done previously. I turned out to be the candidate they wanted. So that was, to me, was very spiritual. And on some levels, it may have saved my life as well because of what I was thinking about doing, And it was more like that feeling that I'd had over 28 years ago where it didn't matter whether I lived or died. I went right back there in here, and I didn't, act out on it. And fortunately, I had people that I could talk to about it, whether here in Rochester or across the United States, some mentor type and mental health type people that are in my circle. And then with that announcement, all of those things just kind of had me to go home the next few nights and really, really make a decision about what's next. Because the bottom line is that I consider myself a spiritual person, not a religious person, but spiritual. And I do believe that there's something after this life here, but nobody has ever come back and told me about it. So why can't I just do the best I can with what I'm conscious of now? And that announcement relit the candle, so to speak. Because I've always been involved in the work, pretty much ever since I've been off the street. Because even though I had a career as a cook and a pantry chef, I always had the desire that the majority of the people that are hurt when I was living that life of drugs and gangbanging and stuff looked just like me. I didn't go to Canandaigua and do stuff. First of all, I couldn't get there. I would do it right in the community that I lived in, and my desire became strong that, wow, I found a way, to move out of that space. And all those people that I know that are still in that space, what can I do? And that's when I began to volunteer and work and volunteer, and became a single dad with custody of my boys for several years, and just began to ask people simple things like, why do I need a driver's license? I know how to drive. Well, because we have laws and regulations in place, or simple things that I had to learn how to pay rent. Because I was so used to paying the rent, and the deposit, or maybe having a landlord statement or something from DHS, and then turn it into a drug house. You get busted or we get kicked out, and we do the same thing again. So I was so deep into the hole that I didn't realize you're supposed to pay every month.
Yeah.
and had to be taught those simple things. Well, these are the same things that these young people have to learn. They have to learn that, part of the responsibility is doing this, doing that, what have you. There's some structure, that you may not reap the rewards immediately, but you're on the path, and it's a lot longer than the path that we take on the street, which is most of the time instant.
My last question for you is, the fellowship sounds incredible. The results out of Richmond, California, where this started, make you want to cry. They're so good, and we want to see them here. How do you initially make that connection, though, with someone who's active in a violent community, gain their trust, and then move them into what looks to be a valuable path?
Well, we are doing the model with Fidelity, so in a minute you'll be able to ask the originators. Yeah. But I would also say it's relationships. See, the credible messengers are from those communities. Like Johnny may be from the West Side. Johnny know everybody in the West Side. Yeah. Johnny has a rep in the West Side, right? Developing that relationship with Johnny and say, hey, Johnny, we got another opportunity for you. Do you want to change what you see in this neighborhood? Because if you think about it, a lot of people don't realize that things that go on that are never reported is that these same guys that are involved in these situations, first of all, is very few. Because a lot of times if you're part of a group, that's your job, so to speak. The other things is the things that they do in that community that keeps them being favored. Block parties, cookouts, things like, that go on that people don't realize this is being done by the same people that, we see as a sight and a sore in that community. So how do we flip that energy? Well, I went after my second half and my second opportunity in life the same way I went after my drugs and my my income living in the world of criminality. So being able to do that can be replicated, but it has to start with relationships. Individuals have to know that not somebody just coming by and saying, oh, look at you, you're doing wrong, you're selling drugs. They know that. You're not telling them anything. Or, it's more of, I see what you're doing, man, but, I care about you, And of course, the first couple of times it may be, well, I don't know who this cat is. I ain't even trying to hear what you're trying to say. And you might even come around here again, we're going to do something to you. But you go back time and time again. I even see Sheriff Baxter doing it. Sheriff Baxter, I seen him one day and it shocked me. I saw him parked at the end of my street, get out his car and start walking. And so I stopped my car and I, reminded him who I was. And it was just before I started this office, right? About a week before. And he said, oh yeah, I come through, I walk through. I love the beef patties down here at the Jamaican restaurant. I get me a couple beef patties, I cross the street, and then I walk back to the car, talking to the neighbors and things, And these guys are still doing whatever they're doing, or they may see the officer and try to do a little lower. But the fact is that he's being communicable. He didn't come there to grab you and lock you up. He came there as a member of the community, and he's partaking in the businesses in the community and saying hello, making himself visible rather than, just reactive, being proactive. And we have several other people, like on city council, that does that. Several other people who are in different spaces in our community that do that. Jerome Underwood from ABC, he has a business right in the community, and when he sees individuals, I've seen him do this, he don't just say, hey, get out of here, we don't. He go talk to him. Hey man, how you doing today? Well, we right here, blah, blah, anything, when you need to talk or whatever, we're right there. Well, that can't be unheard. So when these individuals are human beings, so when they're feeling at their lowest point or they're feeling at points of change and they're seeing that the individual's being consistent, they begin to develop relationship. And that is what helps move things along. because now I have the relationship. I trust you. You do what you say you're going to do. You're not just another person telling me what's wrong and I need to get my life together. You are teaching me how to fish.
Anything else that I might have missed here?
You know, basically, I do, one of the points that I really want to have our community understand and consider is that, yes, we know these are some of the lowest on the totem pole as far as society status goes as it's made, right? But these are still human beings. And, you know, if we're talking about reducing and stopping things such as gun violence, we have to provide the resources, the services, and the human infrastructure to help them move from place to place. Because locking up and different things, which, you know, some things you have to be locked up for, even those we target, you know, but we'll be in the jail as they're getting ready to come out, you know, those types of things, you know, and we don't report to law enforcement the behavior of that person, because we need that trust, we need that relationship. Now, sure, we're going to talk to them about it and ask them, do you think this is the best decision, blah, 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 but we're not going to say, oh, okay, well, you need to be here at 5 o'clock or I'm calling your parole officer. You know, we will do general conversation, but we're not in cooperation, or partnership, should I say, where there's a space where we report to law enforcement whatever we see and things we are interacting on. No, that is a big piece. And that is a kind of piece that's hard for a lot of people to swallow, you know, in our community, because, like, well, you know they're doing wrong, they're doing this, call the police. No, well, police more than likely knew them before we did anyway.
Right. Right.
You know, and that's where they become helpful at. You know, this area is hot, or these individuals are suspected, and we go out to try to help them remove themselves from the suspected list, yeah, to becoming, you know, to a life-changing place. And the data is great. I mean, compared to the fellows that have been had over the years, and the percentage of how many fellows are either still involved or have never had another gun charge or even went to jail again. You know, there's always going to be some, but the data doesn't lie. So, you know, and I think that's so important. We're always talking about evidence-based, you know, and, you know, there's no way that the shooting's gonna stop as long as we keep getting places that, you know, that makes them, that ships them, because these guys don't have that kind of infrastructure, right? Shipping and hauling, and they don't have all that, right? So how are they getting these? Well, we have some ideals, and so does law enforcement, but it's nothing compared to what the narrative presents. Because like right now, everybody's out there got a gun and shooting everybody is what the narrative, and part of your help in this is to help change the narrative and even highlight some of the things that may be positively coming out. You know, right now we're doing strategic planning. Well, we'll actually kick off November 1st, where our consultants are going to be really engaged into the community, the barbershops, the salons, the churches, the small businesses, because what's needed in the South Wedge, there's something needed, but it's not the same thing needed in the Market View Heights. You know, and let our community tell us. That way, they begin to help us.
They feel invested.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And themselves.
Yeah, exactly, in their
Yeah.
own future and outcome.
Absolutely.
I love it.